Whiskey, Oscar Hotel 8 Kilo X-Ray Kilo, over.
So about 3 years ago, I penned an article on my blog called "What does a hotspot do and why do I need one?" And at the time, I built a digital node using an MMDVM hotspot, a Raspberry Pi 0W, and PiStar software. Now, PiStar software sadly has not been maintained, but I thought it was time to revisit the subject because I didn't do a video about it at the time. So now, this video is sort of titled "Using a Digital Radio Node." And I've just messed that up. So, the software that is now updated is called WPSD project. There's been recoded by W0CHP. Now, he has modernised the software considerably, still based on the original PiStar software. But I'm going to start at the beginning this time, rather than just jump into saying you need a node. So, why might you want to use a digital node? So, if you're limited to a foundational license, where you could only currently transmit 25 watts or 100 on intermediate, you may be somewhat limited in the countries that you can contact. And there are various other factors as well. If you live in a flat, rented accommodation in a city or a dip, you may not be able to erect a decent antenna or use the power that you want. Also, due to planning permission, I have tried digital modes like FT8, Whisper very well. And they work very well. They've taught me a lot about propagation. They've also taught me a lot that I can't get out as much as I'd like to. But I want to voice chat with people all over the world and other people in my home country. I like exploring and experimenting with alternative modes. That's another good reason to be doing it. Although I'm interested in HF, the propagation is fickle. You're permanently crushed by people with expensive high-powered transmitters, and there's the potential to cause interference to neighbours. I want more and I'm on a budget. These are all reasons that I can name for wanting a digital radio now. So what can a node offer using digital transmission modes? Connectivity across the globe with a cheap handheld digital node and a walkie-talkie. One node running WPSD software, I don't think that's focusing, and a cheap Chinese DMR radio. And it will work. It will get virtually anywhere on the planet, apart from the extreme North Pole and South Pole. This is great, because these things are 5 watts, and this one's actually switched down to 50 milliwatts, which approximately matches the RF output on the node. You don't need to transmit any more than that. You are restricted to what frequencies you can use it on, but most nodes handle 2 metres or 70 centimetres. So a complete outfit's going to cost you £100 to £200, quite a bit less really, because you can build the nodes yourself in an afternoon. You've then got the ability to use channels dedicated to UK regions, different countries, worldwide countries, and even different languages. It's massive. There are just one network's got like 1,800 talk groups on it. Another good reason to use it, high availability. It's almost completely unaffected by propagation. And when I say this, The reason is because it's pure, for the most part, VHF UHF communication to the node, to a local repeater, and so on. And the repeaters are connected and the nodes are connected via the internet. More about that in a minute. The audio quality is consistent. Now, people will moan that it gets a little bit echoey. If you bother to set it up properly and calibrate your node, that's going to be less of an issue. A lot of people overmodulate and it's awful. Or they scream into the microphone. There's no need to. It's digital. It's like using a mobile phone. So you get good quality audio quality for over 90% of transmissions. There is activity for most of the 24-hour day. You've got a choice of multiple service providers and multiple digital modes. Sorry, I'm getting my tongue tied between modes and nodes. This is a DMR radio, but I can talk to Yaesu fusion groups and other ones, M17. More of that later when we come to look at the setup. Major advantage, no outdoor aerial necessary. This will transmit about 100 yards. There's no point in putting out more power because that won't pick it up. You could put an outdoor antenna on it. I've tried that and I walk down the road and I get about 200 yards. So it's not really worth going overboard with the power or the antenna. That's not its purpose. There's a low risk of RFI or any need to do calculations because it's going to be sub 10 watts on any walkie-talkie. A node offers higher availability of talk groups over an FM or digital repeater, because only one person can use a digital repeater at once. And if they're using talk group 91 to the States or worldwide, and it's busy, nobody else can use it on that repeater. So if you have your own node, you can dedicate that node to any channel. I've actually got two, but more about that later. So yeah, you can operate it in modes that your radio doesn't support. A DMR radio might use Yaesu Fusion, P25, NXDN, M17 or even POXAG. Then, the naysayers. But it's not proper radio. There'll always be people who try to redefine the word proper to suit their agenda. Number one, you need a license to use it and you have to register with most digital service providers to use it. Number two, you really do need a radio, although you can cheat and use computer software to inject into some of the digital radio networks. Some people say anything that is not Morse code or single sideband or FM simplex isn't proper radio. If radio takes part in any part of the equation, it's radio. You're talking to radio amateurs, that's all you're doing. You're not talking to random people on the internet, you're talking to licensed amateurs all over the world. Amateur radio is an experimental hobby. So experiment, try it, see what you think. It's an absolute bargain. It uses the internet. Yes, that's its advantage. You can talk to anyone anywhere by just piggybacking. But that's all you're doing. A lot of the people you talk to are talking on FM repeaters, and digital repeaters all over the world, and they could be 20 or 30 miles away from that repeater easily. If you don't like it, don't use it, but let others enjoy it. It promotes the hobby. You know, somebody can get involved on it. Between that and that, I think it cost about 160 quid. Most people have a Raspberry Pi lying around doing nothing. That's a Raspberry Pi Zero W. You can use other Pis. You can use the 02, you can use the 3, the 4, the 5. You can get more sophisticated hats to go on it, the modem part of it. And in some countries, though not the UK, you can do dual channel. So you can relay through it. But that's another story and we can't do it. So what digital networks can we access? I think one of the first ones I discovered was Brandmeister. There's DMR Plus, free DMR, HB Link, which is a new one to me. In fact, all these are now. After free DMR, these are all new ones to me. HB Link, System X, TGIF, and XLX. And I'll post links to these in the video's description. So, I've already mentioned the hardware we need. The metal boxes you can pick up off eBay, Amazon, AliExpress. I think I got the cases from AliExpress because they're a lot cheaper, but they're the same cases wherever you buy them. And you can get them from Pie Hut, Pie Moroni, all those sort of places. The antennas, I switched over to diamond ones because I wasn't convinced about the tuning of the original ones. But that's a diamond dual band one. It cost about a tenner. So, the WPSD project. And that's what it looks like. Actually, it looks like that and that. Oops, old article. So, the WPSD project is software. So there's a supporting website with full instructions on how to install it. Same as any other Pi software. You download it, you push the image over to your Pi, you switch it on, and you give it a few minutes to sort itself out. And as you did with Pi-Star, you just go to pi-star.local on your computer. I've actually renamed mine, but basically go to pi-star.local on your computer, and then you can set it up. You configure your Wi-Fi using a little tool that's on the website, and it creates a supplicant.conf file. Easier to do than it is to say. So after you've copied the Pi image using Pi Imager or Etcher onto your SD card, it says 8 gigabytes, but it doesn't use anything like that. You can change the name of you can change the password on the configuration page. We'll look at this briefly. And there's a Wi-Fi config file generator. So all you do is you put your SSID in. That's your Wi-Fi name for those who don't recognise it. The PSK passphrase, which I've just revealed to the world. Set your country so that it selects the right Wi-Fi channels. And bullseye, basically. Although it should work with either, to be fair. There's not much difference between the files. And yet there's detailed guides on here, so I'm not going to go through the setup. There's no need to, it's not that complicated, but I will show you the highlights of what I've done. So it supports all the small Pis and the Raspberry Pi 5. And it also supports Nano Pi, Orange Pi, and a few others. It supports all these different node types. I'm using an MMDVM, which is also the same as the ZubSpot Mini. No, it's not. I tell a lie. That's the board I've got, but not the software I'm using. Or maybe it is. I lose track of these things. So, once you get to the setup, you've installed it and restarted it, it's best to work one section at a time. So I've changed the machine name. I have two. I have Interstellar and I have Celestial. And I'm referring to them by their local DNS names. But you can hover over that, as you can see, and it tells you the IP address. Put your call sign in. Get your digital ID from radioid.net. You can get them from other places. And it is protected with a password, so it doesn't matter the time showing it to you. Set up a frequency. Keep it in simplex mode because that's at least the starting point, and I don't think we can use duplex in this country. Select the type of board you're using. There are a few Raspberry variations on here, but it's easiest just to select STM32. Ignore that bit, it's just the default. Same with the modem baud rate. That should set these up System time zone. I like 24-hour because I'm a programmer. It's less confusing. You can set the dashboard language, and you set it to enable you when there's updates available. They don't seem to happen very often, but it's always good to know. So do that bit, put your latitude and longitude in. You can get your location on Google Maps and just right click it if you don't know your latitude and longitude. Just click approximately near your house. That's not my exact location. I'm not that daft. I'm in Ilkeston. That's my Cambridge Square. You can find that out using various software tools. You can use 2 different services for that. I can't remember what the other one is because I've manually put my QRZ location in. If you have an APRS board, or APRS on your walkie-talkie, this one doesn't. You can enable it and you can run that through the Euro gateway or any gateway. And you can publish your data into those different modes. You'll find periodically a bar will appear. So if I provoke it, that'll appear. So after you've done one section, apply the changes. I won't reboot it because it does take a while on a Pi Zero. It takes about 90 seconds. Have a cup of coffee handy because as you do each section and update it, it will take you a while. But if you go to set up multiple nodes, there's a nice shortcut you can do. So then we're going to decide which digital modes we are going to use on the radio, not on the node. So you select what your radio mode is. I've only got DMR. And then don't do it when you're initially setting it up, but it's possible to translate the modes. Now, I don't have the knowledge of these to do it. So I'm not going to go into that side of it, but there's plenty of help on the WPSD website. So set that up and save them. If you have an LED screen, and you don't have to have one, I'm sure that's not in focus, but it's there somewhere. There are indicator lights in here as well. So when I transmit, it will indicate. Possibly not on that node, it might be on the other one. But yeah, you can set up a screen. The 0.96 inch one is a Type 3. But others are available. You can use the larger Hitachi style displays, Nextion ones, which I think are 6 inches, and there's a few different ones you can use. If it requires a different port, you can use that. I've set mine to be enabled all the time. I recommend that when you do the initial setup, you set it to enabled all the time. Don't bother scrolling it, it doesn't do much. Unless you're working multiple modes, it'll all fit on the screen anyway. And on the screen, just for the benefit of those who can't see, at the moment it says it's idle. It's showing me the WLAN address and the temperature of the board, which is 41 degrees Celsius or 105 Fahrenheit. So you can also rotate the display if you've got a different format, and you can invert the display so that it's primarily lit up. It'll light your room up if you do that, but nothing wrong with it. So my primary setting is Brandmeister. So I'm picking the United Kingdom repeater network, on the internet. Hotspot security, you really should set that up. In fact, now I think Brandmeister demand it. When they first started, it was just password. Now you've got to have a good one. So register with Brandmeister. That's Brandmeister. Really simple stuff. But there's a link there for you to take you there. And you can edit your hotspot information in Brandmeister. and even arrange to get an API key, which I've got somewhere. I've also selected free DMR. Now, I haven't sorted this out yet, but you do have to get this string, character string, that just sets up a few parameters. So that's the initial talk group, and you can set them up for time slot 1, time slot 2, and actually that's barking because it should be 2. I'm only using talk slot 2, so time slot 2, so it won't go out at anything else anyway. But the DVM boards, they only use time slot 2, other boards may be different. The dial time, don't use that. The timer is how long it'll hang on after you cease a transmission to see if you're going to start another one. And I don't know what the voice one is. And in both cases, you can set a subnet. Now, you don't have to, but I've got multiple nodes. So I could have one as none and one as 1, but I've actually got one as 1 and the other as 2. More about that in a second. So that is also on 1. And the others I haven't filled in. So you would save all that, go down. These are just on the defaults. You should have the firewall set. It's going to prevent anybody near you interfering with it. In the same way that you should also set a password up for this panel that is not the default one, which is Raspberry. Auto access point. What this means is if you decide to go mobile, take it out in the car with you and link it to your mobile phone, because your mobile phone isn't a Wi-Fi node, we need a Wi-Fi node to connect to. So your little node can serve this purpose. So what happens is, when you boot the node up, and you'd have to run it off a battery, unless you had 240 volts with you for your Pi power supply, or 5 volts. If it doesn't receive a signal after so long, and it might be a minute or so, it will switch over and make itself an access point. And you'll recognise it because it'll say Pi-star in the SSID. And you should set up a password for that also. You can turn that facility off, but you may as well leave it on. It doesn't do any harm at all. So this is the wireless configuration that we set up using that supplicant config tool. So that's the IP. This is the default IP address, not the one I'm actually using. But it's in that subnet. That's all you need to know. So if you're setting it up to auto access point, you can set up the PSK name. Sorry, that's your password. Mine would show as Interstellar, yours would show up as Pi-star. And then if you wanted to remote access your dashboard over the internet, i.e. not from your home location, you would have to set up a password. And don't forget it, which is why I use a password manager. So on those, you'd be looking here to click on the right-hand side. So I'm not going to alter that setting now. So that is the primary side of it. So how does it work? So that's Interstellar. That's Interstellar. And that one I'm having problems with. I've ordered a new modem board for it. But what we can find out is that if you go to dashboard, I'll just show you how you get to dashboard. When you're in the configuration, you can go to admin, you can turn it off or reboot it, you can update the software. The advanced settings I won't discuss. You would need to refer to the documentation. But the sweetest thing on here is that you can back up or restore the configuration. Now on the Pi-star software, this is broken, but this will allow me to very simply just click that, and you'll see it's working, and then it will download it with the WPSD config, the name of the node, and the date. So you can keep multiple copies of this, and if you have two nodes, you can download that one, and then you can restore it to the other one, which is what I did to save me quite a bit of time. All I did to make it work differently, I set up a different frequency. The other one's 434.200, and on the configuration I changed the subnet on the Wi-Fi. Not the Wi-Fi. You have to go to admin first, and then to configuration. Not the fastest thing in the world on a Pi Zero. I actually originally set one up on a Pi 4 and then just put the SD card over. So on this one, I'm using O2 and O2. But I wanted to show you the dashboard. So that one was called Celestial. And that's the last time I transmitted. So there's two sections to it really. This is the activity through the internet on the gateway. But when you transmit, it will show up on here as well. Although my confusion is I don't know which node I was using. Here's the local RF activity. So 1409 was the last time I transmitted. And I'm going to change to talk group 91. I'll just give you an example actually. There's a thing called the parrot, which is on Brandmeister is group 98. And you can use this to check your node is working. So I'm going to select talk group 91. I don't know if you can see that because LED displays overload the camera. So that's talk group 91 on Brandmeister, which is the worldwide group. So you'll see on the bottom of the screen, you've got talk group 91 there. It shows my signal strength, and there I am. So you see I was on 235 before, which is one of the UK groups, but that was going through the net. That was going through my other node. Talk group 91. Mike 0, Romeo Lima Foxtrot radio check.
Mike 0, Radio Lima Foxtrot, UF559. This is Victor, uniform number 2, Eco Hotel Bravo.
Victor Uniform 2, Echo Hotel Bravo. Thank you very much for the radio check. Mike 0, Romeo Lima Foxtrot out. So there you go. So that's a gentleman in India, I believe. Yeah. So you can hover over the mouse. I want to know who he is. I can click on it, and there it goes. You've got to be logged in on QRZ for that to work. So I've just talked to a guy in India on 50 milliwatts. So I think it's brilliant. You can work multiple modes. So if you have several radios, you can use multiple radios together through one hotspot. Though people do say it is better to have multiple hotspots for that. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. But you wouldn't want to be chopping and changing is my point. Because it's using the digital networks through the internet. You would be better to only use one mode at a time and to log out of that mode using talk group 4000 or whatever it is on the network you're using, and then switching to the other one. You need to leave a gap between being on DMR and Yaesu Fusion or D-Star or whatever. You need to leave about 15 seconds for the node to reset. But there you go. We made a worldwide contact from India on 50 milliwatts. And yes, it's a little bit boxy and echoey, but it's cool. It's good fun. I've had some nice conversations with people. And also, just on the subject of people using it, the conversations tend to be more than just what I just did. They tend to be what the Americans call rag Jews. Rag Jews. I can't say that word. But the conversations tend to be more than rag Jews. People are generally talking a little bit more about the weather, the equipment they're using, what's going on in the world. And it's great. I've had some good conversations on different networks like this. I really got to know a lot about somebody's country and their customs, and it's a really good thing from a social point of view. Because I'm sorry to say that a lot of amateur radio these days is, hi, you're 5'9", I've got this antenna, blah, 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 thanks very much. Move on to the next contact, don't want to talk to you anymore. But on here, yeah, you get 5 or 10 minutes out of somebody. Some of the channels are restricted to 10 minutes, particularly in America. Not the ones I've got. Oh, a couple of other things I wanted to show you. On the Brandmeister panel, and I'm logged in, so this gives you a list of active repeaters. You'll think it's not working, but it is. Because this is how many people are using it. So if I put my call sign in here, again, you've got to be patient with this. It's not very fast. I had a break from a couple of years on this, and when I put my call sign in, it still found me from the last time. Of course, as always, when you want to demonstrate something, it doesn't. Never do demonstrations. But in the information section, we can get a list of all the talk groups. There are 1,800, so you can filter it by country, talk group, name. You can export it as a CSV spreadsheet or PDF or print it if you've got lots and lots of paper, 168 pages worth probably. But I exported it and I made a cut down version of it, which I brought back into my radio. Okay, I had to do it manually, but at least I had a list to work from. The network map shows what's active in the world. So there we go. So just in the UK, they're all over the place. And I know there are several repeaters near me that do connect to it. Well, that one for starters, GB7D, DC. There are other repeaters that do link into it indirectly. But you've also got lots and lots of nodes. That's how much activity there is every hour. So yeah, go through phases. Down here we can look at my devices. That's my original node. And also sometimes when I've set them up, I didn't set the 01 on the end. All it does is append the 01, 02 to the end. So that one you can see, it doesn't show you when it was last active, unfortunately, but it tells you when it's not active. I thought you could, there's all sorts of stuff on this that you can do. Device logs. There you go. So here's my activity. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you which group I was on. But you can see the times that I've got through on 01 and 02. So I have been using it a little bit, and I plan to use it a lot more this winter. Because you can just, use it in bed or cuddled up in front of the fire, which the weather we're likely to get is going to be very likely to be doing that. Show 100. Go on. But it's a great additional thing to use with your radio. It increases the capacity of what you are doing. You can reach other countries, you've got more reliable connections. We've been through all the bonuses. Don't let people put you off by saying it's not proper radio. Have a play with it and you'll be talking to people. Of course, he stops talking just as I turn the volume up.
Copy you, 5'9", I'm in South Florida, mobile. Name here is Bruce. VRUCE, call sign KQ4ULT. So I don't have any question. I suppose that a lot of stations are waiting for us when we finish.
Obviously, he's shouting into the microphone because he's so far away, like people do with mobile phones. Some of them shout so loud they don't need a mobile phone, to be fair. So that's hotspots, WPSD, and the Brandmeister network. And I intend to play around with free DMR. So I hope you enjoyed the video. By all means, give comments. I hope the audio quality is better with this headset. These are great for amateur radio. You can pick them up for peanuts on eBay now. It's like 10 quid. It's an MPOW. And it's USB and it's 3.5mm. Because it works through a digital adapter. And pow. These were 30 odd quid a year ago. You can pick them up for a tenner now. And it's got volume and mute controls. 2 mute controls, one for the speakers and one for the microphone. So you can cut people off, they've no idea. So, yep, thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, tell your friends about it. Share the link, share it. Use my content, just give me a credit in it. But, yep, it's great fun. Talk to you soon.
Accommodation, 8 Kilo